Starting over. Okay, I'll call it, it's 7:03 now. I will call this meeting of the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust Board of Trustees to order. The meeting is being conducted via Zoom video conferencing in accordance with the open meeting law. Instructions and a link to the Zoom meeting are on the posted agenda. The meeting will be recorded by the town. Anyone else desiring to record the meeting may do so only after notifying the chair and may not interfere with the conduct of the meeting in so doing. With that said, agenda announcements. One thing, it's not on the agenda, but I think I can safely discuss it without violating the open meeting law, is the question of whether you would like to continue meeting via Zoom or whether you would rather meet in person.
I love Zoom.
I like
I mean,
Zoom.
I don't love Zoom,
Zoom
but the
works.
convenience, it would have been very difficult for me to make this meeting tonight
Mhm.
if I hadn't been able to do it from here.
Yep.
I agree.
What's the status of that, Harry? Are we going to be required to meet in person?
No, the remote provisions that were in Governor Baker's emergency order were baked into an amendment to the open meeting law that's valid, I think, until April of 2022.
Uh-huh.
So at least for the next 6, 7, 8 months, we can certainly do this way. So we're not required to yet. There will come a time when perhaps we might be required to have a quorum present in person, but not yet. I am perfectly happy to continue meeting in Zoom. It's convenient for me to do the minutes because I have a video I can go back to. And, it cuts off the whole getting your act together, getting someplace else, conducting the meeting, and then getting yourself back home.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to continue to meet via Zoom unless somebody has a strenuous contrary position and I'm not seeing it. So,
Harry,
yes.
has the town opened up any other public buildings for in-place meetings?
I don't know. I have a meeting in town hall next Tuesday,
Mhm.
The
But it's
library is
not a-
not open for meetings yet.
but it's not,
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
about the COA.
I'm all for Zoom too, but I just was wondering if the town has made any provision for those that want to meet in person again.
not aware of any. So,
I also saw that Provincetown has now put into place that masks will be worn inside again because there's over 100 cases of Provincetown residents. So we're probably just as safe to meet from home.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other announcements? No. Okay, housing, we've got a very ambitious agenda tonight, so hopefully we can be succinct and to the point. Any other housing related events of note?
Or you're looking away, but I'm going to start. I sent you each the flyer for the upcoming Story and Song Housing Angels program that Sharon and Susan Spear have been working really hard on and done a wonderful job. And I think it's looking like a terrific program. The important announcement is twofold. Send it to your friends and neighbors and buy some tickets yourselves. It is now up and running on the Pres Hall website. You can go and make whatever donation you like and get a ticket. So I hope you all will do that. Harry, the
Yes.
proceeds go to the trust.
Mhm.
And Elaine and I were talking earlier today and about doing a little pitch of 5 minutes or so, either before or after intermission. And would you, representing the trust, like to do that? It's August 11th between 5 and 7.
Okay, I am returning back here on August 10th.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll be able to get my act together.
I was going to say, if you'd like to join us, great. If not, we will make the pitch for the trust.
Mhm.
But
Gary, can I-
I'm
In
sorry,
terms
Jim.
of the donations are the donations made out to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yes.
Okay.
When is the response date for the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force? That's coming up pretty soon, isn't it?
August 2nd.
If we can talk about that, I'd just like to report on one item that came up from our last meeting, and that was the question as to what that meter, the electrical meter is, and the structure in the yard there across the street from the school, adjacent to the old COA building. And Jay Norton did find out that basically is a main branch of the internet and telephone structure for what was Bell Atlantic and is now Verizon. And so the question that comes up with that as to whether that structure could be moved or not, if that area is being considered for development. So I think it would be up to a developer to figure out what they were going to do with that area there. If they were planning on building anything in that area, because obviously there are wires and pipes underground there that feed the communication lines to and from those structures.
Okay, great. So mystery solved.
Right.
Finally.
Yeah. Other,
I just wanted to report that I don't know if all of you know that in the past, Wellfleet has been part of a community development block grant for housing rehab and childcare expenses. And this year coming up, we are part of that grant with Dennis and Brewster. And it provides 1.3 million for both housing rehab and for childcare expenses. And the partnership and the Housing Authority have been approached to provide a letter of support. The agency that will be administering it is TRI, the Resource Inc. out of South Yarmouth. So we will be providing that letter. I don't know if it's something the trust would want to do at this point, but I think, you know, the Housing Authority and the partnership are probably adequate, but it's a great program and really glad that hopefully some of this will be flowing to Wellfleet again this year.
mhm.
I can add to just a bit to that is that those CBDG grants.
CBDG,
Yes, thank you.
that thing.
Are grants of up to 40,000, but there are only 5 that have been allocated for Wellfleet.
Mhm.
So it is competitive and it is subject to income eligibility. But if you know of anyone who's interested, definitely let us know. And we hope to be rolling out the whole program in the next month or two, but certainly they can apply early.
Can I,
You'll let
go
us
ahead,
know
Sharon.
more information,
Yes, we haven't received it yet.
but you'll send it out to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly right.
if we can go back to, Catherine, I'm sorry. I don't know who that is.
Okay.
Oh, it's Casey Myers. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see you in the waiting room, Casey. Going back to 95 Lawrence Road for a minute, do we have a schedule for the selection committee yet?
No, that's a really good question, Harry. You know, the proposals are due on August 2nd. They're supposed to submit, I believe, 10 copies, which should be enough for everyone to have hard copy. I don't know what an appropriate time is to give the group a chance to read them. We do have the option for any of the proposals that meet the minimum requirements. We can ask for a public presentation from all the ones that meet the requirements. Those are strictly presentations where the committee can ask for clarifying questions, but, and they're open meetings, but the public does not get to ask questions.
Mhm.
I'm assuming pretty much the month of August, will be taken up with that.
Mhm.
And if possible, a recommendation to the select board by the end of the month.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. But we don't have an actual schedule, which I would think probably the first week when people get copies, give them the chance to do that, and the second week meet and decide if we want to have public presentations or not.
And that would be the task force that's making the decision?
The
Well, it'd
task
be-
force is the evaluation committee and then sends recommendations to the select board.
Okay, thank
The
you.
task force and a few other people, Rebecca Slick as
Mhm.
our OTA, and Harry had also offered that service and was very much appreciated. So,
Yeah, and typically the way, typically the first thing to do is to go through all the proposals and make sure that they are responsive and responsible first,
mhm.
and just weed out those whose proposals don't meet the literal requirements of the request for proposals, and then go on to evaluate the rest of them.
Well, Harry, with respect to that point you just made,
Yep.
Are we in a position to make that the determination as to which ones meet the qualifications, or do we need additional assistance on that?
I mean, I've never had counsel involved in that because it's, really kind of
Right.
matching up the proposal with the request for proposals. And if, something's missing, like the non-collusion affidavit, for example, then they just get disqualified.
We will have the support of Laura Schufelt from MHP on
Mhm.
doing
Okay.
that.
Okay. Okay, anything else on other housing related stuff?
Sharon, do you want to speak to your Housing Angel button program?
Well, so Ann Suggs is working to get it into several more galleries this week, although she had a plumbing backup in her newly made apartment. So there's always something. But I am happy to report that we did sell our first 2 buttons, or sell is, they're by donation. And so we got a $500 donation, which I contacted the person who did it today, but she needed to call me back. And so I'm going to send her an email and just give her the info. But that was very exciting.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Gary, I opened up your email to look at the flyer.
Yes.
And when I look at it on my phone, it's fine. But when I download it on my computer and I click on it, it kind of blacks out, like something funky happens with it.
Uh-oh.
Somebody else check it to make sure. Like, I'd like to send it over to Melissa Wheeler because I need to reach out to her, Sharon, about speaking. And I just want to make sure or before we send it to anybody else, I'd like to make sure everything's okay with it.
Sharon, if you would try to send it as well and see if you had the same experience
Okay.
with that.
And I can email you guys later on it.
Wait,
Yeah.
you want me to send it to Kathleen, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really use a computer anymore, so I just have an iPhone and an iPad.
That's fine.
and
Send it from your
fine.
phone.
What?
You can send it from your phone or your iPad.
You want me to send it to you again?
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Okay, next item, if we're done with this one,
Hmm?
is the whole question of accounting. It took 3 tries, but I do have an appointment scheduled with Charlie Sumner and Lisa Souve for next Tuesday to review the questions I have, which include, number one, what is the available balance and has it been transferred to the trust? Number two, what are their expectations in terms of how we go about getting invoices paid, making disbursements? And number three, how do we identify what portions of the trust balance are encumbered by CPA grant agreements or other types of restrictions, so that we can be sure that as we spend funds allocated to us, we're spending them in accordance with any restrictions. So I now finally have that meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. And Charlie did tell me today in a conversation that they have closed the books on, I think, fiscal 19 finally, or maybe it was fiscal 20. So they're making progress. I think it's fiscal 20. So there isn't anything nothing to act on here except the information.
Progress, good.
Yep. I did put on the agenda approval of funding for second buy down program award, but when I finally got around to doing the minutes from the last meeting, we had voted to approve that funding subject to DHCD, I guess, allowing us to go back to the last selection list. Gary's got his hand up.
So two things to report. DHCD has approved our using the second person on the lottery list. If you remember our discussion, this would allow us to make an award and save some administrative money, but also considerable time. And so pending approval today, we will notify CDP, who's our agent on that we can award that. And it is actually a local Wellfleet person. So if that's okay, Harry, I'll proceed with that. I have a second thing about the buy down.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion because I think we voted to do that at the last meeting, and
Great.
I misled you in my first email.
Yeah.
And then
Okay,
after I
great.
did the minutes, I realized that we had actually voted to do that, subject to
Great.
DHCD approval. And
So
the
we'll
second item?
The second item is that there is another round of CPA grants being considered. This is based upon our having a fall town meeting. And we discuss asking for another buy down funding. And the reason for it is really twofold. I guess it's really our best way of promoting home ownership amongst the eligible people. And the second is if we ask now, and pending the Harry's discussion, or maybe the final audit, we don't know how much CPA funds, if any, we have available. But pending availability of funds, we could have an award, start an award process in October, which would probably give us the ability to make an award of another buy down in the January, February timeframe. And then gain 6 months or more rather than waiting for next year's town meeting and approval. So we thought that it might be worthwhile to ask the CPC to consider that. The other aspect of that were actually two things. One is, given the state of the market, we've talked about increasing the amount of money that we asked for. We asked for now 185,000, and of that, 10,000 goes to the cost of administering the program. Much of that is for advertising that we're required to do. So we talked about adding another 25,000 so that the grant to the individual would go from 175 to 200. The second thing is whether the recipient of that grant should be the housing authority or the housing trust going forward, since the trust is the role of the fiduciary for housing money. So Elaine and I are prepared to put together the proposal in the name of the trust, if that's in fact what we want to do.
Other opinions on that?
Well, I have a thought just about doing it in general. I mean, if we're going to award a second buy down now,
Mhm.
the last thing I would want to do is pit two buy down families against one another. And based on the dearth of Wellfleet available properties, potentially that's what we could do. Is there a way for us to not award the money until the other people get a house?
We control the schedule.
Okay,
So we
Great.
could be, but just if we actually make that announcement, notify the individual, let's say this week, we're talking about 9 months before we would really get around to having the other one be out and looking. Now, obviously there's no guarantee, but we
there are
could,
3 properties for sale in Wellfleet now. The Blash House for 5.5, the Inn at Duck Creek, and a $1.6 million house on Spring Lane or Spring something.
Spring Valley Road? Well, it doesn't.
So hopefully we will have the good fortune of having another house, which would be great. But I also wouldn't want us to be giving more money to a second party that would then usurp the first party. So we just, but as long as
Right.
you can control it, by all means, let's do as many as we can.
Okay, I think it would be perfectly reasonable for us to write that into the grant, that we will control the timing so as not to compete. And there's also the question of whether we should increase it or not.
We should.
Well,
We should,
it's still one of the least expensive ways
yes,
to create affordable housing, as near as I can tell.
right.
And fastest. I
And
mean,
it
Yes.
also,
it's such gratification that, wow, we added another house to our affordable housing stock.
And honestly, it puts the least demand on the town resources. There's no new construction, there's no new water. If they require septic, we'll update the septic. It's
There's no legal fees if somebody sues us.
right.
Yeah, I'm certainly okay with the either the trust or the housing authority taking the lead on that. I guess if we're going to take the lead, then we should be the applicant on the grant application to the CPC.
I'm fine either way. What, Elaine, what do you think?
well, I mean, it's one of those programs we've traditionally done for quite a few years now. So does it make sense to keep it in the bailiwick of the Housing Authority? Because we also contract with the CDP to administer it. It sounds like it might just be neater to have the trust authorize the Housing Authority to do this. I'm fine anyway, but this is kind of like a test of how we want to organize some of our activities going forward.
I mean, that's kind of where the expertise lies, is with the housing authority.
Can I ask, maybe this is a stupid question, but does it have to be a house in Wellfleet?
Mhm, yes.
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yeah, because
That's what I thought.
because we're putting in, a significant chunk of money, it's going to count. It's going to be deed restricted in perpetuity and count on our subsidized housing list, which, yeah.
And also
That makes,
it can be a condo. It cannot be a mobile home or some such, nor can it be new construction. So, it has certain limitations on it, which I don't know if we can impose on another town.
Mhm.
So I would be glad to make a motion. Should I make the motion that we support a CPA application for another buy down? I think the only question I have is, should we write it for the trust or the housing authority? And we'll certainly, Kathleen, have it be time sensitive.
I think I'd do it for the housing authority. Just because you guys know how to do it.
That's fine. Then I'd ask for an endorsement on the part of the trust for a submission of a buy down application to the housing authority.
And you want to up the amount by $25,000?
That's what we discussed, Harry. I don't know if you have an opinion, or people have an opinion about it.
I think that we were really fortunate that Day Road had 3 bedrooms. And that likely that starts to become part of what the problem is, that properties that fit within the price range to have, if they only have 2 bedrooms, they're priced less than regular houses, but they still are more expensive and they don't fit within that qualifier of, what they're allowed to pay for a house. So I think the more money that we can put towards it, the better.
Okay.
Agreed.
I agree.
Well, if
I do
others-
too.
Right, we have a full agenda, so Harry, if it's okay, I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, so move Gary, second by Jim. Any more discussion? Okay, so what I have, well, here's our
Mike's
final
coming.
member. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so what I have is that to support a CPA application for another buy down program by the housing authority with an increased amount, increased by $25,000.
It actually would be 210, Harry, because
Okay,
10,000 is the administration.
so the amount would be 210. Okay, any more discussion? No. Mike, what we're talking about is an additional, the CPC looks like it's going to do an additional round of applications, and we're talking about supporting the housing authority and applying for an additional buy down using an amount increased by $25,000 so that we could award $200,000 instead of $175,000.
Yeah, and sorry I'm late. I
That's all right.
spaced that we had a meeting tonight. Just one question. We had talked before about it potentially just being the next on the line. Do they have to redo the application process?
Okay, to kind of bring you up to, go ahead, Gary.
Michael, we are talking about actually 2. So this week we did get approval from DHCD to offer the buy down to the second person on the lottery list that we had done before. So we're going to proceed to do that this week and start that search. So this would be 175, or essentially about 180 coming from the trust to fund that buy down. And now we're talking about putting in a CPA application during the summer for an award at a fall town meeting. And that would be in the amount of $10,000, the cost to administer the program, and approximately $200,000 for the award.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ready for the motion? Okay. Roll call vote. Kathleen,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Elaine,
Aye.
Sharon,
I,
Michael,
Aye,
and the chair votes aye. So that's 7 in favor, none opposed. The motion is adopted.
Very good. Elaine, will you reach out
ahead.
to the applicant and I'll contact Ann?
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay,
she's gonna be so excited.
Yes.
does that exhaust the agenda item on possible Community Preservation Act grant applications?
Yes, it
I believe
does.
so.
Okay. Consider accepting donations by credit card. Just a tiny bit of background. I happened to run into Don Rickman on Friday, and we were talking shop. And apparently what happens is towns, credit card companies routinely deduct their service fee from the payment. But towns have to appropriate money to cover that. So typically, mechanically, what happens is you get $1,000 in credit card payments, and the credit card company has deducted $50 in processing fee, or whatever the amount is. So the receiving organization has to transfer that $50, has to make that whole again. So, we don't just get the net amount. We have to get the whole amount, and we have to have an expense item to cover the fees. So it's just a little mechanical headache, but that's the way it works.
So with the Housing Angels, this is sort of our first reaching out other than tax bills to kind of raise money from the community, the larger community. And of course, most people pay for everything with their credit cards, especially when they're on vacation.
Mhm.
And so another possibility that someone raised, and I'm not all that technically savvy or financially savvy or anything, the other possibility would be something like Venmo, which people also use kind of instead of cash. And they have a Venmo account, and the organization or the merchant gets paid directly out of their bank account. Although, like I say, I'm not very savvy. The process of asking someone who's like in a gallery looking at buttons, just for example, or they're at the Housing Angels in Story and Song, and we're asking them to make donations, and they don't have their checkbook with them, and they have to remember that they're wanting to do this when they get home to their checkbook, whatever. It's just a little bit, it's complicated on that end also, and it's likely to reduce donations.
Yeah, and I don't know how things have progressed since this issue was last in front of me about 6 years ago. Back then we had to pay for machines to swipe the credit cards, and I guess we still do. So I don't know exactly what the setup is. I don't have a problem with taking donations that way. I just don't know what the mechanism is that we have to do.
I think it would be a matter of having a button. So I don't know about the paying the service fees. Okay, that piece is outside of my bandwidth, but I think it's a matter of having a button on our Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust website or the the Wellfleet Affordable Housing.org website that says donate now.
Mhm.
And people can do it directly from, their phone online. But I don't know how the service fees are handled. I don't
Well,
get that.
I think what happens is we just have to we have to show the gross amount of the donation as being received. And then we have to show as a separate expense, the transaction fee,
Mhm.
so that our
Mhm.
income side of the ledger shows the gross amount, not the net amount. And it's
Yeah.
just an artifact of municipal accounting.
Right.
Sure.
And it's not a big deal. We just have to do it. That's all.
Um,
I think it would
Well-
facilitate things if we could make it happen. That's all. And
Yeah.
I want,
Well, but I would say one thing is that particularly if you have a message out there that says that 100% of your donation goes to support whatever the cause is, then you need to have another source for that expense for the processing of it.
Mike, you had your hand up first. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I believe the town is moving in a direction to have a standard credit card platform that it's going to use across the board from different departments, so that the building department and the beach department and everything is using the same vendor for credit card processing. So I don't know what it looks like, what that will look like in the future. There was a Warren article on that got moved off because it needs a little bit more work. But I think that would sort of standardize whatever the fee would be. But also, I think Venmo is a free transaction up to a certain amount of money. And I don't know what that looks like. Sharon had brought that up before, but if the Affordable Housing Trust can set up its own Venmo account and then transfer that money somehow into the account, that money would transfer directly into the Affordable Housing Trust
Mhm.
account into town. I don't know how that works, but a lot of people are using Venmo now to make direct payments, and they can do it right on their phone. They don't have to enter a credit card; it's already in there. And then also if the website's set up to accept like PayPal or something like that, most people have a PayPal account at this point that they can just log into and make a donation through PayPal, kind of like Act Blue or whatever. So
You do realize you're talking to a different generation here, Mike. Not to put too fine a point on it.
yeah,
I was thinking, we need a young person to set this up for us.
Well,
well, I can't
let me-
set it up.
let me add a couple of other data points. I did approach Miriam, the treasurer, with the idea, and she said she would at least talk about it. We had talked with the previous treasurer in the past, and it was very complex with the town accounting system. But in general, whether it's PayPal or some other service, they are looking at about 3% service charge. So it's roughly $3 on every 100. And I would think that would be a good investment for the trust, is that we'd happily pay $3 for every $100 we got
Sure.
in a donation. And that would also eliminate the issue that Jim raises, is that still that the $3 could be coming from some other account in the trust.
Right.
And we would be accepting the $100 donation at face value. So the last point I would make is that there is an effort right now that the Housing Authority is looking at to redesign our website. And to that end, if you know someone who would like to be involved with that, we would welcome it. But to redesign it with the idea of also taking a credit card or Venmo donations.
I think if we're talking about redesigning that, I think we should talk to Darren first and see if he's interested.
Mhm.
I'm told that it will be in the something in the order of $5,000 to redo the website,
Oh,
but I don't know what that is yet. And
maybe
I'm
we need to
hoping to
put out-
get, yeah, I'm hoping to get a work statement so that we can go out to bid, or get 3 bids on it.
Okay, I can certainly add this to the list of things I'm going to discuss Tuesday next week.
Maybe if it's all right, Harry, I'll join you.
Okay, I assume that's okay.
Yes,
I'll
check
let-
and see if there's a
I'll-
problem, let me know.
Yep, okay, gotta make a note in the margin.
I don't know if there's any motion that we require for this other than,
Right.
are we reasonably interested in pursuing it?
Well, I think we're interested in pursuing, but let's find out what's involved and then say, yeah, let's do it.
Great.
Okay?
Mhm.
Let's see. Another kind of bit of administrivia that's out there is trying to sort out CPA grant conditions and which monies they're attached to. And I guess I don't know how to go about doing that. I have a list that I got from Mary Rogers, but it goes back. It's really just a list of grants going back to gosh, I don't know, 2006. And I'm assuming that some of those grants have been exhausted, I hope. So I don't know. I guess my concern is just to be sure that as we spend money, if we're spending it, yeah, go ahead. If that we're spending it consistent with the grants we've received.
Do we need to reconcile the monies with that paperwork, Harry?
Well, I think we do, but I guess my question is, I don't know how much of that's already been done, because I know, and Gary can probably speak to this, that there are filings that are done annually with the Commonwealth and.
Yes, there are, Harry, reports of expenditures done each year under the CPA Act itself. What we have asked for, and we've had 2 conversations, I think, with Charlie and with Lisa Sauve, the interim accountant,
Yep,
is to reconcile this, much like the trust. The CPA has been difficult to come to reconciliation on what has been awarded and what has been spent, and what has been posted to the right accounts. And we're still waiting on that. So
okay.
it is a legitimate question, Harry. It's still an open question. I haven't heard that they're any close to resolution on that, but we can see.
Okay, it was on the list of things I included
Yeah.
in.
No, it's a-
Discuss,
it's a-
so,
It's an important question because when we approached Charlie about having another grant round, and we asked him, well, what would be the minimum amount we might have? We did do an accounting based upon all of the previous reports, Harry,
mhm,
and the balance that we thought was something on the order of 700,000 plus that we still had left in CPA,
Mhm.
not yet encumbered
mhm.
funds. And we sent that to him.
That basically spread across housing reserve, open space reserve, or just,
All, right, all
Okay.
reserves
Mhm.
and all programs.
Okay,
And I can send that to you if you like, Harry.
okay, sure. So that's something we'll follow up on again on next Tuesday. I just, for your information, Mike, I do have a meeting with Charlie and Lisa Sauve scheduled for Tuesday next week to just try and nail down the whole mystery surrounding housing trust accounting.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
another quick item. The housing trust statute requires that the housing accounts and books be audited by an independent auditor annually. And I know we haven't done much this year. My thought was to request the select board when they do a procurement for auditing services to just include the housing trust within the scope of that, so that we don't have to independently contract for an auditor, especially for the fiscal 2021, because we may have accumulated some donations, but we certainly haven't spent anything. Any thoughts on that?
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. And let's see, we're finally coming to stuff that actually matters. The Payne Hollow Road escrow request, we don't have a document to look at yet, is that right?
Right, yep,
So I would like to wait on that until we do have a document.
right.
Status of Mass Housing Partnership Technical Assistance Grant, Trust Mission Statement, Strategic Plan for the Trust, and all that. I received, and I don't know how many of you saw it, I think I sent them along to everybody, 2 documents from Mass Housing Partnership. One of them was a collection of mission statements from housing trusts, housing partnerships, and housing authorities, to which Elaine added some draft statements that the housing authority had, and housing partnership, or just the housing authority
Just
had
count.
worked on. And then the second document was one that just kind of itemized the tasks as they're divided between the 3 agencies. And maybe if we can just take a look at that one first. Is that the one I have up next? Hang on. No, I actually have the mission statements up, and they are here. See if I can get this where you can see it. This is the document that I sent you, and I think what I added after I sent you is Elaine sent this along as her first cut of a mission statement for the Affordable Housing Trust. And I looked at it and I made some changes. Mainly I changed, instead of specifically citing the AMI statistics, just said affordable by low and moderate income families. But how do we want to proceed? We want to,
Does moderate income include up to 120%?
No. No, it doesn't. That's why I put it in there. I don't like having those numbers in there, but as a trust, we decided to do that. That's part
Yep.
of our mission. So that's kind of called workforce. It's like low to moderate community and workforce housing. I guess if we wanted to say all those things. I just think we should nail this down and move on.
yeah, okay, well,
I think the 120% is good because it gives people who read it an idea of whether they can qualify for something by maybe somehow looking up and seeing, do I meet this threshold or am I close to it, or, so I kind of think it's good to just have the number in there. The trust can always change its mission statement down the line if the numbers change, right? So.
Yeah, there's nothing, this isn't a document that ties us to anything in terms of a legal requirement. And in light of Elaine's explanation, I withdraw my suggestion.
I like Elaine's statement.
Does anybody have any thoughts about doing something different or modifying it in some way?
Do we
No,
think that the first sentence is a little long and maybe we could just cut it into two? It seems a little wordy. I mean, I'm all for everything it says.
Mhm.
I'm going to read it out loud and let's see what it sounds like. The mission of
ahead.
the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust is to create, preserve, and support an adequate supply of quality year-round housing, both rental and ownership that's affordable to people earning from 30 to 120% of the Barnstable County area median income AMI.
What if there was a period after both rental and ownership? And then a new sentence. The goal is to create housing affordable to people earning from 30 to 120%.
I was actually thinking about if the period was after year-round housing and then saying,
Either,
yeah, and then the,
Including both rental and ownership, that is affordable.
yeah, or I don't know if you can start the sentence with including. I'm not a grammar guy.
No,
I don't think you can though.
either. I mean,
That would include both rental and ownership. That is affordable to people earning.
or the goal is to include.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
I would say the goal is to increase both rental and. ownership.
Perfect.
Right. All right.
Yeah, the Brewster one says to expand and preserve.
If we use the word increase or expand, then I think that would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we already have create, preserve, and support. So,
Yeah, the goal is to
Increase.
expand and preserve both rental and ownership.
Well, we've already included preserve up above.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, okay.
to increase.
Expand rental, both rental and ownership.
Opportunities that are
Opportunities.
affordable to people.
To
Beautiful.
people earning. Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, somebody want to give that back to me again? I'll try and change
Elaine.
this.
Okay, so period after housing.
Right.
The goal is to increase.
And you don't have to say both. You could say both is to increase.
Increase rental and home ownership possible opportunities.
That are affordable.
Yep.
That is.
Yep.
Mhm.
Nice.
I like it.
Can I change people to families? Is that okay?
It's not only
No.
families.
Be careful.
Needs to be
Individual.
people.
Yeah.
People, okay. Can we
Has
get rid of AMI in parentheses? It's not like
Sure.
it's not like we've used the term elsewhere in the document. You know, so it's a,
Yep.
okay. To create a mission of the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust is to create, preserve, and support an adequate supply of quality year-round housing. The goal is to increase rental and ownership opportunities that are affordable to people earning from 30 to 120% of the Barnstable County area median income. And then the rest is unchanged.
If you wanted to change people, you could put households. That would be the only.
I like people. It seems
Okay.
warmer and fuzzier than
Yeah.
households.
Good for it.
Okay.
So good.
They might not have a house to hold on to at that point.
Well,
Any-
Mhm.
And then the
Yeah, and
other,
really, it wouldn't make sense, affordable to households. It's really the people.
Okay,
the only other comment is, I think Shelley made a comment at some point in some discussion in the past that homes is more friendly than housing.
Hmm.
So support an adequate supply of quality year-round housing or year-round homes.
Home,
Homes.
Homes.
Homes is warmer and fuzzier.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then in the bottom, I would just still leave year-round housing supply. Just 'cause
Yep.
There's
Yeah.
not really any way around it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
So
Do you
let's
like-
just read the last sentence, though. The trust seeks to build financial capacity. What does that even mean?
Raise money.
We want to have enough money to promote our efforts, is what we're saying?
Mhm.
All right. To promote these efforts.
we could just say capacity. We don't need to say financial.
There
do
you
we?
go.
yeah, get rid of financial. I'd
Right.
say.
Do we even have to say that we're seeking to build capacity? I mean, we seek to promote these efforts and works collaboratively.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Seeks to,
Promote.
like that?
Yep, these efforts and works collaboratively to increase the year-round housing supply available to people at all stages in their lives to support an inclusive and welcoming community.
Would you pluralize works? I mean, should say work collaboratively.
Trust seeks to promote and
Yeah,
seeks to work.
That's a second clause. Seeks to promote these efforts, comma, and works collaboratively. to
Oh,
increase-
yeah.
So I add an Oxford comma.
Yes.
There we go. It's something for everybody.
Well, what about the trust works collaboratively to promote these efforts
Yes.
Oh, good one.
and use expand instead of increase, since we've already said increase?
Right.
Yes. And that shortens it up a little, which also feels better to me. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just so many words. You're like, what?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it becomes
some of the
a
other
word,
ones. were-
yeah, it becomes kind of a word salad.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
I saw the Harvard University Graduate School mission statement and you couldn't figure out what they did. It just went everywhere.
Should it say to people at all stages of their lives versus in their lives?
Yeah, possibly.
Sure.
At all stages. At all stages in. of-
Okay.
Can I just mention that I was reading through all the other mission statements that you sent to us.
Mhm.
And this one now is the only one that has such specific reference to percentages of the 30 to 120%.
Mhm.
So that, if that's what we want to state, fine, but I think that's why when I saw the alternate version, I thought, well, that's more, a little bit more generic and more open. And I mean, it can be further defined in any kind of subsequent kind of.
But it's actually not more open because moderate actually is defined
Yeah, that was.
in
Then we
Yeah.
can't do workforce.
terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Workforce is not defined as my understanding.
I just don't like the words workforce housing either in the mission
Mm.
statement. I just
A lot of people don't like that.
don't like the term.
Mhm.
Yeah, what about retirees?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's the
are
reality.
we happy with what we've got?
I
Yes.
love it.
I like it.
Mhm.
Okay. We want to make a motion?
I move to accept the Affordable Housing Trust mission statement as amended.
Second,
Just This is the problem with having a secretary and a chair being the same person.
You're doing a tremendous job, Harry.
Well, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, motion is to adopt the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust mission statement as we've just revised it. Roll call vote. I have to go back to my list now. Mike,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
Sharon,
I,
Elaine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
chair votes aye. That's 7 in favor, none opposed. Okay, I'm gonna save this so I can find it again. Yeah. And just take a look at this one. This is the other document we got. And because we have a scoping committee meeting, I think on the 28th.
Something like that.
Yeah, so I sent this out earlier, but it sort of kind of assigns the tasks to the 3 different organizations. I didn't have any particular thing I saw that I wanted to change. But I'd like to get your comments so when we go back at our next meeting on that, we can report on where we are.
I
Did
have
you
a
get-
couple of, oh, sorry,
Sure.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sharon.
One was, I would like to see support of ADUs on there somewhere, or accessory dwelling units. So it sort of says, well, you scrolled down a little bit, but both in the, in the trust and the partnership, I don't know about the Wellfleet Affordable House, the Housing Authority. But when we say programs to support rental housing, one of the tasks, I think, should be support of accessory dwelling units.
Okay, I guess the question I would have is, what type of support are we talking about? Are we talking about low interest loans from the trust to construct them? Or are we talking about community outreach type of support, publicizing the existence of the program?
I think that's actually a later topic on the agenda, but because I would like to talk about that a little bit more, but certainly as far as the trust is concerned, possibly considering low interest loans or whatever to support the construction of them. And as far as the housing partnership would be to community outreach and education about accessory dwelling units and how they might be constructed. We have this new bylaw, and I think it's not going to go anywhere unless we give it a boost.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just,
It's just a thought, but
yeah,
I know, Harry, you said you
just-
wanted to get rid of trustee education.
yeah.
Just in response to Sharon's, I don't know if, and maybe this is for a later discussion, that it would meet our obligation of being within the 120%. To do things for to allocate resources to the to the homeowner. Maybe that's for another.
Well, and I think in some cases it might be. I
Right.
think there are homeowners who will fall into, I mean, there would have to be income qualifications, but I think that there are homeowners who don't make a lot of money who would like to participate in this opportunity to create more rental housing. That's
Okay, but-
my sense.
Okay, but typically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, when we spend money to develop housing, it's with the expectation that the housing will be, if not permanently affordable, as permanently as we can make it affordable.
Well, so
Uh-huh.
for example, if we promote low interest loans to homeowners who agree to rent their accessory dwelling unit for a certain affordable, not capital A affordable, but below the 120% affordable for the terms of the loan or that kind of thing. Sorry, I'll be quiet now.
No,
Oh,
no, it's, well, let's kind of just take a step backwards. I think it's appropriate to place this issue somewhere. I don't think that we need to fully develop a program right now
right.
to do it, but we need to say, is this something that that the trust is going to do, or that we think LHP or Housing Authority should do? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think,
Sharon, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I think, supporting ADUs is probably a good idea to have in here. And then figuring out what capacity we could do that is another topic.
Well, these are goals, right?
Yeah. But there's different ways in which we could do that. Offset rents for people who are under a certain income,
Mhm.
Yes.
are renting ADUs, so that landlords, because they are market rate, so sort of offering some incentives to rent at certain levels. I don't really know, but if the goal is to support housing and we can do that within our parameters, then we should probably put in there the support of ADUs and then figure out a program to do that in some way down the road based on what we are allowed to do by our mission and by our sort of charge.
I agree.
Well, should we then, because this is not a final document that we're adopting here, so do you want to just add it to the list for the Housing Trust?
Mhm.
And we'll see how it works out. So right now, the two comments I have is, one, get rid of the strategy for trustee education. And the second one is to add a new strategy for supporting ADUs, both to Affordable Housing Trust.
Harry, could you go back up to the partnership?
Yep.
The partnership met and discussed the mission statement, and we unanimously agreed about the outreach being fine, and bylaws certainly are reasonable, and support of the efforts at the National Seashore. But identify municipal land and buildings for housing, identify private land, and learn about land trusts are really outside the purview of the partnership. And the question I would have in this discussion is, do you want to add that to the trust?
Okay, I think, well, let's see. because it's kind of grayed out here. I'm not quite sure I understand what happened here.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Uh,
either, but so
Yeah, because,
anyway, those last three tasks under the strategy 3, under the partnership, we all agree should not be there for the partnership.
mhm.
Whether it should be there for the trust is another question.
Well, I think, those, and when you say last three, are you
The
including?
municipal land buildings, the private land, and the community land trusts.
Okay. But you left dialogue with the seashore, or did that come out too?
I think the partnership folks felt that we would advocate the word support, and that
Mhm.
would be support efforts with the National Seashore and other groups regarding potential land.
So basically, strategy 1 and 2, partnership,
And-
good
and
with.
bylaw.
Strategy 3, not really. That should probably be with the Affordable Housing Trust, but it looks like it's outlined in here under strategy 3, WAHT,
Yep.
strategy 2, strategy 3. So maybe they're just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
We changed,
Either way, I think we have to find a new home for those, and the
Mhm.
trust seems to be a likely place to put them.
It seems like
Okay.
the right place to put them in here in the trust.
Okay, well, basically I'm looking for comments that we can take back to the next meeting next week.
the other thing I'd like to suggest is that the Wellfleet, so the initials for the local housing partnership are incorrect.
Yeah, yes.
They, it confuses things.
Yeah,
It should
LHP,
be local housing partnership.
not AHP.
Yeah. It just confuses it because it's too
Okay.
close to the trust.
WAHT, yeah. Okay. Other comments? Okay, you want to talk about support for creation of ADUs in a little more detail now?
Sure.
I will stop sharing so I can see all of you again. Okay, Sharon, this one's, I think,
Okay, so Elaine, you sent on some information about possibly a more regional approach from, it's the homeless prevention and CDP, was it?
Well, it looks like a bunch of agencies were approached initially by Hadley Luddy at the HPC about filing an application for the American Rescue Plan money for a regional ADU support program. Hadley had contacted, I think, the CDP, and she contacted Hillary at our health department about it. And then Hillary or somebody shared that with some of us. I read today in the Globe that they have like 4 or 5 years to use that money, so it may be a while till it comes down the pipe.
But nevertheless, that's a form of support that we
Right.
might choose
Exactly.
to offer.
Yeah, because all our towns now have ADU bylaws.
Right.
I think looking at it regionally is great. I mean, all our requirements and our bylaws are a little bit different, but
Mhm.
when Sharon and the others and we were researching all this, we see a lot of communities have a lot of support in terms of education, information, not necessarily funding, but to help people that want to do ADUs.
So I really have this vision, and I don't know which one of the committees it comes under or anything else. But just whether it's just Wellfleet or whether it's Wellfleet and a more of a regional push of sort of creating a support network for ADU creation, which might include writing a how-to handbook that goes on our website. It might include people who have built ADUs, lending support to people who are just beginning the process. It might include people who want to form a self-help group so that they all help each other build ADUs. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. And I think that the more, the more support there is, the more we will get. And it can be a confusing process, I think. So whether leaving, and also finding financing, that's part of it. But I would just like to see a sort of an effort in that direction.
We're going to need a building inspector to help out with that.
But that would be good.
Yep.
It's a good first step.
Yep.
And I did learn that the bylaw has not been sent to the Attorney General yet. I don't know if there's a
Really?
time on that, but Helen Wilson talked to me yesterday and she checked into it, and the bylaws that were done at town meeting haven't been sent yet. So she really urged Charlie and Jennifer that was very important to do.
Good.
We can probably leave that in Helen's capable hands, and I'm sure it will get attended to.
I hope so, because that's discouraging.
I mean, I think financial support is a great idea too. Our down payment assistance, which does support people that are under the 100% or under, but it doesn't deed restrict the homes. So the concept of a similar kind of grant to people that were willing to, that they'd have to pay it back if they stopped using it as an ADU. But otherwise, like a 15-year sunset or something like that. It's just, those need monitoring, they need administration.
Yeah, I think that I would expect at a minimum that until the loan is completely paid back, that ADU be restricted to affordable, because otherwise to spend our money to support somebody building something that's going to be rented at market rate is really sort of beyond our
Yeah.
scope.
That's clearly not.
On the other
and not-
hand,
I was
I'm
gonna say,
sorry.
and not within our mission statement.
But
well,
here's
not
the
within
thing.
our-
As I've said many times before in the development of this bylaw, the so-called affordable rates are actually not very affordable. And so a studio up to 1,000 square feet can be rented for $1,100. And a 2-bedroom is like $1,400. And so those are not prices that the market will really bear for year-round small rentals in Wellfleet. So I think in general, the ADUs are not going to be, even at market rate, are not going to be highly priced.
Well, what
Yeah.
I was going to say was that it makes sense to me to provide rental support for somebody who meets income requirements, who's occupying one.
Mhm.
It doesn't, I have a concern that I haven't sorted out yet about providing financing for somebody who's building something that's not going to advance affordable housing. You know, I don't want to fund somebody's building something that's going to be at market rate that we can't get somebody that meets income requirements into. But supporting somebody who meets income requirements, who needs help renting one, I think that makes sense, because we're paying for a slice of time that corresponds to the lease. So what we're paying for matches up with our mission. And okay, at any rate.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, Harry. I think if we're gonna be like loaning money for somebody to improve their property, which add equity to their property and has several other benefits, besides just the rental income, that we should probably, utilize that way, utilize that money as a way to sort of get more, maybe capital A affordable units into these ADUs. If people are incentivized to build one with this loan program, that they have to rent it with a capital A affordable requirements to get that funding. And then, potentially use funding to offset rents that are, market rate for people who qualify that way, so that, there's some way to get people who are, at that 120 and below into places where they may not be able to quite swing it, or they would qualify for rental assistance or something like that.
Yeah, because right
You know
now,
what, Sarah?
our rental assistance does cover people at 80% and under. We could,
Right.
we could
Rather
have-
than our spinning our wheels on this, if in fact homeless prevention is looking at it, they have all the towns around us have the same issue. If they're trying to use CPC funds, they have the same restrictions. If they're trying to use trust funds, most of them have similar restrictions. And a regional approach, much like what we did with emergency housing assistance, there was a working group that developed a plan that was fairly easy for us to plug into. If we reach out to Hadley and see if there's a regional approach, maybe we can build upon what they're doing rather than our trying to create something whole ourselves.
I'm only marginally talking about the financial piece. I'm really talking about the technical understanding piece and creating, and maybe that isn't a trust issue.
I mean, I think something like along those lines of having a loan program does make sense, but I think that's the kind of thing where we can use that to sort of get some units that are actually rented as, capital A affordable, even though I know that the market rate and affordable rate don't vary that much on the Outer Cape, because, affordable rates are considerably high. I'm repeating myself now, sorry.
there's been a little disconnect between our AADU because the rents have to be HUD rents, but the people's income can be up to 120%. So in essence, it kind of penalized the landlord because they might have had people that income was, 120% reasonable, but they had to keep the rent at the HUD level. So in a way, it's kind of an odd situation if we're going to allow incomes up to 120 to count, but then the rents still have to be at this level. So
Right.
But the HUD rental rate is pretty high.
it's pretty high, right?
What do we want to do?
Just don't know if we should decide this right now.
Nah, we don't need to decide it. I just
Okay.
wanted to
I
discuss
think
it.
we should think about it, though, because
Okay.
I definitely think that there's potential there, but I do still have some concerns, and I think they're shared with Harry at this point, but I'd like to think about it.
So just push this to the next agenda and keep talking about it. And in the meantime, if someone pops up with a task force to look at it regionally, we'd participate in that.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if they want letters of support or something, I think, I would like to see them forthcoming.
Mhm. But we don't have a specific
Not yet, no.
request in front of us. Okay. Okay, we'll keep this on the agenda and keep talking about it. Let's see. Future meeting date. I am gone August 1st through August 10th.
Good for you.
So
Hope it's fun.
I hope it is too. I'll tell you when I get back. We can, well, let's see, that's less than 2 weeks from now. So we could meet before then, or we'd have to wait until, or it would be like a month.
We could meet on the 9th.
Okay, I'm back on the 10th.
Oh, I thought you were leaving the 10th, sorry.
No, I'm gone the 1st through the 10th. That doesn't mean that I necessarily have to be here. I mean,
Do we have any pressing issues?
Maybe.
we'll see what comes out of the executive session, but other than that, nothing really.
So what's the Monday after you get back, Harry?
16.
Well, That's the 16th. Which I'm certainly okay with. I'll be back in time to post an agenda and everything.
Why don't we go with that unless something emerges?
Mhm.
Did we discuss the Payne Hollow Road escrow?
I kind of skipped it because we don't have a document to look at.
Oh, okay. I heard
So-
you say that.
Yeah, so that was my full treatment of that item.
Okay. Is that something that's going to be time sensitive?
I don't think so.
It's been years. Oh, yes.
There's no reason it should be years more, though.
Next to 10. Hey, I finished a land court case that someone had filed when I was in high school.
Oh, no.
That's terrible.
That was, yes. And it was a 20-day trial spread over 3 years, but the case was actually filed when I was in high school, literally.
Wow,
Terrible.
So,
kind of depressing.
uh,
Are we talking about future agenda items too?
yes, we are.
Because at our housing authority meeting, we talked about, again, about getting an RFP out for our parcel on Freeman Ave, which we'd really, really like to do. And that has fallen under the trust's duties on that little chart. So there's a lot to straighten out about doing it, but if we can get it done in the next few months, we'd like to get that parcel used.
Yeah, I think that makes eminent sense. And I guess, we'll find out whether there's anybody out there that's interested in just one parcel.
I can't imagine who would be.
Who would that be? Who might combine it with some of their other efforts already going on in town?
Well, I mean, there is that.
Yeah. There's only ever been one group that's interested in one parcel or two.
Well,
Harry, can I just go back and for
Sure.
clarity's sake, did we decide on the 16th
I think we did.
at the same time?
Yeah,
I assume so.
let's do that.
And I don't see any reason why we can't start working on a Freeman Road RFP in advance of the next meeting, if there's somebody we can energize to do that, like Rebecca.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know what resources you've used to do the other RFPs.
Harry,
Yep.
can I just ask a procedural question?
Sure.
The town meeting vote was to transfer the land to the housing authority.
Yep.
Could the housing trust issue an RFP under that authorization?
I think we probably would have to issue it for the housing authority.
But the trust could essentially manage.
Yeah, I think we could manage it, do the mechanics of it, but it would be the housing authority that would have to select a responsive and responsible party.
Harry, there was a memo that came from Peter Freeman regarding next steps on the title and ability to go out to RFP. Would it be okay if we forwarded that to you to take a look at as a next item and see, can the trust undertake those now?
Sure,
Okay,
I'd be happy to look at anything.
great. And we
Oh,
also
yeah.
have an RFP that we could modify from another case that we could use for Freeman Ave, we can send that to you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, There's,
Yeah,
there's,
What the address is that we're talking about here? Because I'm not familiar. with the-
Jim, this is the piece of property that is Chequesset and Freeman, right by Summit Ave. You know where the water?
Right base of Summit.
Yes, exactly, at the base of Summit to the, if you're going up Summit Avenue from
It's on
Chequesset,
the
it's on the
side.
left. Exactly right.
Because there
Yeah,
are
this-
water issues there. That's why
Uh,
I was,
It's the
There
upland
were
lot.
there were two lots and we did not proceed with the one that had limitations, but the one that was developable, that was transferred. And it hasn't been transferred, but the authorization was given at town meeting.
but if you have more information on what if it was the town meeting most recently,
Yes, and we do have,
then I'll find that information then.
okay.
It wasn't the
has
most
been
recent
heard.
town meeting.
it was
Yeah.
2019,
Okay,
same year as 95 Lawrence, we got it.
And there were two lots, but the lower one was deemed to have water problems. The upper one was deemed acceptable.
Yeah.
But I recall looking into this, and I do know that there were curb stops at both of those properties on the water system, so that they had access to town water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
because it
correct.
goes up Freeman and turns right and then turns left and goes up Summit over the hill.
Yes,
Got a
exactly.
jog there. Yeah. Okay. Well, if that can be set in motion, we can, I don't think we need to approve it in advance. Just at some point we'll have to act. But in the past, who's developed these RFPs for you?
We've had a
You
couple of
name it.
times, couple of
I-
times the assistant ATA did. Tim, Laura Schufelt has done one for us. Our consultant, Karen Sonnenberg, worked with Brian Carlson to do one for us.
I did one for the thing next to the mainstay that didn't attract any responses.
mm,
So
so,
we have the rough draft, we have
Yeah.
the previous ones, so I think it's a
Yeah.
question of modifying them, Harry.
Yep, okay.
We could use our technical assistance grant with CDP if it was required to get support for that.
Yeah. Well, it may not, let me take a look at it. We may
Okay.
not need to do much except change the timing and the description of the property.
Elaine, do you want to send Harry the relevant materials for it? Can
Yeah,
you do
there's
that?
two-
Do you want me to?
there are two long emails from Peter Freeman. I think I sent you one of them several weeks ago, Harry, but there are two of them that kind of detail all his work he said had to be done. And then I think, Gary, you have the RFP for
Yeah,
208.
do you want me to send that to you?
Yeah, please. That'll give me something to do in the next week and a half. Anything else for our next meeting agenda? Okay, so let's look at, hang on. Minutes from June 28th. I sent you out a draft not too long ago. Where's the open session minutes?
Counting on Kathleen to find what needs to be done.
I thought they looked good.
Yeah, I do too.
I read them. I didn't see anything.
Oh, good.
Yep, nothing stopped me. Oh.
I move the minutes.
Okay, who's that? That's Gary? Sorry.
And I second that.
6:28:21 minutes. Okay, any discussion? Roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Elaine,
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So that's 7 in favor, none opposed. Okay, we do have an executive session. Where's my executive session checklist? Oh, come on, I printed out all this stuff. Another document's gone astray. Okay, well, let's see if I can, okay, here it is. Okay. Topics listed on the agenda. Convened an open session. The purpose for convening the executive session is to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. The trustees will adjourn from executive session and will not reconvene in open session. And having a discussion in open session would have a detrimental effect on the trust negotiating position. So we'll take a roll call vote to recess the open session, reconvene in executive session. Let's see, Elaine,
Yes, aye.
okay. Gary,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
chair votes aye. So that's 7 in favor, none opposed. So it is 8:40 PM. I'm going to adjourn the open session and stop the recording.